Hey everyone, I hope everyone's been enjoying and utilizing the How to Buy Your Subaru Part 1 and Part 2 for the STi. From a layman's standpoint, if you've never owned a Subaru or seen the Subaru STi and you're really interested in it, do some research on purchasing it, check these videos out, let me know how these are doing for you. The amount of things that you can do to check the engine out are limited. I showed you a few things with the fluids, so if you're planning on keeping this thing and you want the motor to run, a compression test is definitely going to be your best bet. Doing that compression test might be tough. That owner might not let you take half the car apart. So if you're at a Subaru dealership, that's probably your best bet on getting a compression test. That if you're serious about buying the car, you want to know. Of course, getting it to an all-wheel drive dyno and getting it in front of a tuner is the best way to really tell the engine health. Heat is an issue with turbocharged cars, and the Subarus are no exception. Keep a good eye on the temperature gauge after you've driven the car. If the car tends to overheat quickly, you could have a head gasket issue. The first thing you can check are the electronic relays that work the fans. The radiator fans must run to cool the engine. Have the key handy, and you're going to want to go underneath the steering wheel. You want to locate and connect the two green plastic connectors. Connect them. Now turn the ignition to accessory, but do not turn the engine on. You can hear the fuel pump cycling and clicking, and you can hear the fans. If you don't hear the radiator fans, it could mean that the radiator fan relays are bad. They should click on and off. After you're done testing, make sure to unplug those green connectors and leave them unplugged. For the suspension, the springs, struts, and mounting hats can be all interchanged. Coilover units will come fully assembled, and that's what I'm looking into. Trying to do as much research as I can because I've heard that some coilovers can make the ride very harsh. So if everything works out and you do purchase the car, first modification I would get is the accessport, Cobb Tuning's accessport. Get the version 3 if you can. Not only are these excellent tuning devices and self-adjusting devices where you can adjust launch control and flat foot shifting on some of the Cobb's maps, but you also get to check the health of the engine by doing data logs. Live data lets you check for engine knock and air fuel, many other parameters, and it's also the best way to tell your PSI for boost. Press the button to data log, right? Get in third or fourth gear. I would do third if you have a 6-speed, and go for it. And now that should be a good data log for a third gear pull. You can pull the information up on your desktop and read from a plethora of data. Check Cobb's website on how to read some of this data correctly. Now, if you're planning on going the pro-tuned route and you want to go to a professional Cobb tuner that does Subaru cars, you need to purchase the accessport for them to put the information on. When they get you to the all-wheel drive dyno, make sure that they're Cobb accessport certified first off. The tuner should be well-versed in how this works. If he's not and they do Subarus, some people even like to pro-tune even when they just have bolt-ons. The off-the-shelf map is good for certain areas and certain temperatures, but if you live in certain climates that are really hot all the time, you might want to get your car pro-tuned and get all those barometric pressures and all the boost type stuff figured out with your modifications, especially if you've modified the car over what the map for the off-the-shelf tune uses. Engine rebuilds are very popular. You can go crazy. You can get a Cosworth block, heads, you can turn the manifold around and turn the turbo around. There's a lot of things you can do to these things to completely modify the fuel systems. Cobb makes a E85 system now where it's injectors, I think it's a couple lines or fuel rails, a E85 flex fuel sensor, and that allows you to tune E85. Really popular modifications include bigger turbos, injector swaps, fuel rails. Just remember, if you are daily driving this and this isn't your toy to go crazy with, if it is, then you can put whatever you want on the thing. But if you really want the reliability of your STi to last for a little while, you definitely want to look into the least modified car, in my opinion, unless the car is professionally built and modified. Connecting rods, pistons, piston rings, upgraded engine block, all of the engine internals. If the motor's been built, properly modified, and tuned correctly, you can get away with someone's built STi. I don't know of any aftermarket solutions for transmission. Besides rubber bushings and such, you can't do anything internally to the transmission. I don't believe there's another gear set for it. It's made so tough, the 6MT, that it's made for Group N rallying from the factory. So they handle very high horsepower without anyone doing anything to them, except maybe upgrading the clutch. Of course, you could always mess around with the exhaust and get the sound you want. I've only heard of the rear differentials becoming an issue when you're pushing really high horsepower through them. Alright, that's it for part 3 now. I guess I'll see you when part 4 comes out. Alright guys and girls, take care. Bye-bye.